Donald Trump is the one guy that I believe, if he actually tried to like sell documents or whatever, or if he had the even intent of selling these documents, he's the one fucking guy who would openly say it. Every single time he's gotten in trouble, he has very straightforwardly, like openly been like, I'm doing crimes. How can we do these crimes in an even more illegal way? Trump indictment 2? No way. Breaking. Trump just said on a social platform that his attorneys have been informed that he's been indicted in the classified documents investigation. Oh my God. Double smoke. Double RIP Bozo. I was going to fucking do a RIP Bozo smoking on that pack shit for motherfucking Pat Robertson for dying, being pro-life and then dying. Turns out I was wrong. It's a double RIP Bozo smoking on that Trump pack as well. Hold up. That's right. That's motherfucking right, baby. Oh, my Lord, what is happening? We got to go to Fox News real quick. Fuck, we'll get back to Pat Robertson and why he was a fucking charlatan, but more so a demon after these messages. Holy moly. Oh, no.
He's afraid of going to jail.
Yeah, he's just fallen. He's been accused of taking bribes from Ukraine, China, and now he's going to arrest his political opponent right before the election year. I don't know about this. This does not smell right. Charlie Hurt, thanks so much. We're going to bring in President Trump's attorney, Alina Habba. So just to summarize,
Alina
Fox
Habba,
has
my
not
queen.
confirmed the indictment. The former president has just announced this on Truth Social, that he has been informed by his attorneys that he will be indicted over what he calls the boxes hoax. Alina, what can you tell us?
I can tell you that's exactly how I would characterize this, for the president to be indicted for something that every other president, every other non-president, including vice presidents, have done, shows what a sick world we are living in. I am petrified for the country at the moment, Jesse. Sad for my client, although he is resilient and strong, and it just tells me once again why we need him back in the White House. It is a very sad state of affairs in this country.
Have you spoken to the former president since this happened? Have you had any conversations with his legal team? What's the sense there?
I would never discuss any privileged conversations that I have, of course. I can tell you that obviously he put something out which says he's...
I'm so sad for the country. Like, if this can happen to the president, what about all of the classified information, classified document enjoyers? That's what I have to say. What about the millions of Americans who enjoy mishandling and mismanaging and classified documents and refusing to cooperate with authorities? Like, what about the Discord enjoyers? It's a terrifying prospect for those who play War Thunder, for example. It's a terrifying prospect for anyone that plays Milsim games that has access to, you know, classified intelligence. It's fucked up.
Sock drawer. And the Department of Justice determined that that was fine. And we all know Hillary Clinton bleached classified documents. She smashed classified records with hammers. And that was fine. She was not indicted.
Yeah.
What is the
difference? I wouldn't do this. I wouldn't prosecute this.
Right. So what is the difference here? Nothing was destroyed. These were documents that he was negotiating the return of to the archivist. All presidents are entitled to access to all of their presidential records. Every president.
Yeah, that seems like a skill issue, dog. I wouldn't be bringing up Hill Dog all that much. That's called a skill issue, bitch. Get better, you fucking nerds. Get better at destroying classified intel, bitch.
By any funder, anybody that would give him any money in exchange for access. He doesn't need the money. And that is the most frightening thing to the current political climate in America. And because of that, he is the biggest threat to the corrupt political system we have, to the corrupt justice system that we have, the Department of Justice that we have, that we've seen whistleblowers afraid for their lives because they know that there were briberies being taken place with the Biden family and that they are now overseas hiding. They are afraid because Donald Trump doesn't need anyone. And the only way that they can protect themselves at this point, the Comeys of the world, the Bidens of the world, is by making sure he has no voice and that the American people have no voice. And that is what they're doing. They're taking away the American people's right to go into a ballot box and decide fair and square who they want to clean up the mess that has become America.
Yeah, and we saw this a couple times in the last couple years. We had an impeachment of the former president during an election year, and then you had the suppression of accurate information by big tech, by the FBI, disinformation by the CIA before the last election. That stole votes away from people. There have been
She's doing
surveys
tricks
that
on
prove
it.
that if they had known about the laptop before they cast their ballot, in certain swing states, they would have changed their vote. And now you have this, a second election in a row. This is actually the third election in a row that the Department of Justice, the FBI, the CIA has involved themselves in against Donald Trump. ABC News now, we're hearing it's 7 counts. Can you confirm any of that, Alina?
I cannot confirm the counts. I wouldn't speak to that. I can tell you this. Every single time there is an investigation that comes to fruition against the Biden corrupt family, every single time, right now,
the Biden corrupt family doesn't hit the same as Clinton crime family. I'm sorry. That ain't hitting.
Every single time there is a coordinated dance that is becoming obvious to the American people because they are smart. And what they do is they say,
no,
oh,
they're
look
not.
at this
American
shiny
people are
ball,
stupid as
Jesse.
fuck.
Look at this shiny ball. Let's go after Trump. Whatever you hear about the Bidens, don't worry about it. Trump, Trump, Trump. It's called Trump derangement syndrome. And now it's becoming so sick. They are politicized. I'm embarrassed to be a lawyer at this moment. Honestly, I am ashamed. I am ashamed to be a lawyer. I'm ashamed that this is the state of our country. And it is so obvious that there's this dual system of justice. This is selective prosecution, selective persecution.
Dude, I love this so much. Like, oh my God, it's so fake. Like, she doesn't even fucking believe any of this
Jim
shit.
Trusty, one of the president's lawyers who went to the Justice Department, I believe it was Monday, to have a face-to-face with the special counsel.
Quit being a lawyer.
I guess
then
that didn't make much of an
quit being a lawyer then.
The special counsel. And there's also a dual track to this. They have the January 6th investigation that's ongoing. There's something down in Georgia we don't know much about, except the Giggly Wiccan is in charge of that jury. And then you have Alvin Bragg here in New York. Is there any concern that this is just a legal onslaught that might be too difficult to overcome, or is the president confident?
No, because at the end of the day, all of these indictments, the American people need to remember, they are a one-sided evidentiary hearing in a grand jury that is put on by far-left Democrats. Jack Smith is effectively what you would call a Democrat left-wing operative, for lack of better words. All he does is hate Trump, hate the right wing. So you put this guy in charge. He gives a group of people in a silo his information, his evidence, and then he gets an indictment. That's only the first step. And I really want the American people to understand this.
Dude, this paired up with Pat Robertson's death, paired up with the Supreme Court decision that struck down Alabama redistricting is like insane. I don't know what the fuck's going on, dog. Shit is weird right now. Okay? There's a lot happening in the universe that is like extremely my shit. I don't know why.
We are supposed to have in the America I know, in the America that has a constitution that we're supposed to abide by, then President Trump will be vindicated on all fronts. And we've seen this. They can't bring charges. Look at the AG in New York. 3 years of investigation. And then what do they say? Oh, maybe you valued something a little too high. Garbage. It's a sad attempt for political interference. There's election interference. It is obvious, and it is so showing that Sleepy Joe is weak and that he cannot hold his office. This is the desperation that we are seeing right now.
And it's crazy. It takes 5 years. They still haven't done anything in that Hunter Biden investigation. They took this thing through in about, 4 or 5 months? This boxes deal?
Yeah, exactly.
Alina, I got to run.
Everything
Thank you so
with Trump
much.
is fast-tracked.
Unbelievable.
Thank you.
Now let's bring in Mike Davis, president of Article 3 Project. We haven't seen the indictment yet. So what specifically do you think it's going to show?
Well, I think what it's going to show, Jesse, is what we've been talking about since August, that this is a bogus indictment of a former president for the non-crime of a former president having his presidential records in the office of former president, which is funded by Congress with Secret Service protection and federally funded staff and security clearances. The Presidential Records Act specifically allows presidents.
By the way, the Article 3 project is basically the Federalist Society, but like by a different name.
Bring the Presidential Records Act and
for those of you who are wondering,
Trump under the Espionage Act, which is not applicable to a former president's handling of his presidential records.
And Fox has just confirmed that the former president has been indicted by Joe Biden's Justice Department. So there is no crime under the Presidential Records Act. All presidents have been able to access all of their presidential records. How are they saying this is espionage?
Well, that's a very good question. They're trying to say that because President Trump had records that were marked classified in the office of former president, that somehow he has violated the Espionage Act. They're not saying it's classified, apparently. They're going to say it's national defense information. But what they're ignoring is that under the Presidential Records Act, any documents created or received by the president or his White House staff is a presidential record. It does not matter whether they're classified or not. And a good example
weird. You're an
of this
adult.
is
You're an adult. Stop saying president. You're like literally in charge of another Federalist Society type operation.
Classified audio recordings of his presidency stuffed in his sock drawer.
Oh my God, he keeps saying it. Okay, I can't do it.
Act applies, and if a president takes his presidential records when he leaves office, they are deemed personal, and it does not matter whether they're classified. And that's the Presidential Records Act. The Espionage Act is not even applicable to a former president's handling of his presidential records.
Stop.
So it's a garbage prosecution. Let's just accept that. Let's say it moves forward. I don't know whether this is going to be heard in Florida, in Washington, D.C. Do you know that?
It's unclear. I would be surprised if it's not in D.C. because I think this Jack Smith has proven, and so has Merrick Garland, who's made this. Merrick Garland had to make this decision for whether to indict Trump or not. And we know that Jack Smith is a partisan prosecutor. Jack Smith got overturned 8-0. It would have been 9-0 for his bogus prosecution of another Republican potential presidential candidate, Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell, back in 2014, I believe. And it shows a pattern that Jack Smith is the political prosecutor
who could forget Bob McDonnell's presidential run? I mean, wow.
And if he brings the charges in D.C., it shows that he's very political because he knows that it is the D.C. judges are uniparty judges, and the D.C. jury pool is like 93% Democrat and like 99% Trump deranged. And so I expect these charges in D.C.
So if it goes to D.C., right now we're in June 2023. You got a Republican primary just starting to heat up. What is the timetable
this is kind of
for
shitty.
A trial in the middle of a Republican primary, possibly a general election?
Well, that's the issue. This is clearly election interference by Joe Biden. This is clearly election interference. Isn't it funny that the day that
it's only shitty because, like, remember, I always told you Ron DeSantis is a joke, except for one unlikely outcome, and that is Donald Trump is somehow unable to run, or clearly like held back dramatically. And I don't know what's going to happen. Okay. He can still run from prison. Eugene Debs comes to mind. But it's just non-zero chance they're doing this now because they're looking at the approval polls and really don't want it to be technically true that they arrested him while he was leading against Biden in the averages.
Washington law professor and Fox News contributor Jonathan Turley. So, Professor, you also know a little bit about history. This has never happened before in the history of this country, has it?
No, it hasn't. And this is one first that I hope most people regret, even if you feel that it's warranted. It's surprising because Merrick Garland had a decision to make here, not just whether there was evidence to indict, but whether that served the interest of justice. So we have to see what's in this indictment. There are a couple of things that we'll be looking for.
I fucking hate this because I completely erased from my memory everything about the document saga. Like, I deleted it all from my memory, and now I have to like re-upload it and refresh it by reading up on this shit. I totally fucking erased it. Like, I never even thought about it ever again. And now I gotta fucking learn about it again. Fuck.
To avoid the necessity of a charge against the president. So this indictment, the details of this indictment are enormously important. But that obstruction charge comes with a big ticket sentencing provision. That's up to 20 years. But as with many of these cases, Jesse, it comes down to timing. They don't have a lot of runway before the presidential election. And the court's going to be in a tough position how to deal with this criminal case when you have the leading candidate for president who wants to be campaigning. Then there's the final issue here, which is going to get really wicked. And that is, Trump could run on pardoning himself. You know, for people that feel that this is bias, that this is part of a pattern, he could turn this on his opponents and actually run on his right to pardon himself. So if he's elected, even if he's convicted, he could pardon himself, or he can do so before a trial occurs.
Yeah, the good old pocket pardon. So Fox is hearing that it involves obstruction and handling of documents or mishandling of documents.
Get down.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, yes, thank you.
I'll give you the last word. Go ahead.
The mishandling of documents is the one that is going to be the most interesting reading, because Joe Biden mishandled documents in multiple locations for a much longer period of time.
And lastly, in terms of obstruction, don't you have to prove intent? Wasn't it always about intent? Where would the intent be here?
Yeah, that's why we got to look at what's in this indictment to indicate how they're going to prove that point. There have been all types of leaks coming out, but you're absolutely right. This can't just be a legal dispute over who gets to hold these documents under the Presidential Records Act. It's going to have to be something more than that, and we'll see if that's in the indictment.
So you believe the former president, if this goes forward, could be tried and possibly convicted before the general election? And then he could appeal to the Supreme Court?
Yeah, it's possible. It'd be a record.
There's nothing funnier that I can imagine with respect to Donald Trump and his past behavior whenever he's violating the law and rules and regulations, his open disdain and his transparency in doing so, that makes him the perfect criminal in any kind of minor to major violation of said law. He is so brazen that, like, if there is one person who could go to jail on issues that are hard to prove otherwise, as long as you have like 3.5 fucking brain cells, Donald Trump is the one guy that I believe, if he actually tried to like sell documents or whatever, or if he had the even intent of selling these documents, he's the one fucking guy who would openly say it. Like, every single time he's gotten in trouble, he has very straightforwardly, like, openly been like, I'm doing crimes. How can we do these crimes in an even more illegal way? Let's document this. I don't know how, like, he's so awesome at doing crimes in the most obvious ways. Like, he's the type of dude who's like, I, Donald Trump, am robbing a bank with a gun I purchased with a straw purchase from a friend whose name is Rudolph Giuliani. and I am robbing this bank right now. I will not be able to get away with it because my getaway car has one wheel that is busted. I'm doing this because I want to steal the money and I want to buy myself more Sudafed. The only other person that does crimes this openly is Andrew Tate. That's the only other person I can think of that's just straight up is like tells on himself regularly.
They will know exactly what they're going to lay out. They will obviously do very little once they're in that appearance. They just want to make sure he is there, that they have all the instructions that they can possibly get, and obviously begin to foment their strategy. The president said this on Truth Social. He called the Biden administration corrupt. He said that this is a dark day for the United States of America. We are a country in serious and rapid decline. But then he adds this, but together we will make America great again.
Oh my God. Remember when DeSanctimonious fucking was like, oh yeah, I will not be sending Donald Trump if the federal agents if the federal agents try to extradite him, I will not be extraditing Donald Trump. I wonder what Ron DeSantis will say now. I wonder what little Rhonda will say now that he is running for president against Donald Trump.
The tug of war, Jesse, between the president, the former president, the Trump team, and the archives folks is not uncommon. That happens with virtually every single administration when you leave office. They want their records. You say you'll get your records, but then you sort of go back and forth, this tug of war. If you go back to the Obama administration, it happened too. But the big difference now, obviously, is we have a DOJ that appears convinced that this rises to the level of charges of a former president of the United States. A dramatic day here in Washington, one unlike any other in our history, Jesse.
And we do know that the current president, Joe Biden, did have to sign off on this case against the former president moving forward. Last summer, early last summer, legal counsel went to the president and said, we're going to move forward with this, and he said, okay. So to say that he has no fingerprints on this box hoax, as the former president says, is not true. At the same time, you have a credible informant telling the FBI that Joe and Hunter were bribed with $10 million by a Burisma executive. While
where is this coming from? Dude, this is so fire. I don't even know if this is true, but I didn't even hear about this. Like, it's awesome. They're like literally living in a totally separate planet. By the way, he should go to jail if that's the case. I 100% think he should go to jail. Actually, fuck it. Throw Joe Biden in jail too. Okay.
Given that we've been sort of following the TikTok for a while, this does not surprise me. What I predicted would happen was this would happen on a Friday. It happened on a Thursday. I thought this would probably happen anyway, and I predict the Trump team will fight this vigorously, although their chances of winning, I'll have to see.
All right, well, thank you very much, Kevin. Very, very sad day. Again, Fox News has confirmed that the former president has been indicted by Joe Biden's Justice Department, 7 counts of mishandling documents, possibly obstruction. We're hearing espionage as well. He'll be in court on Tuesday in Miami for an arraignment. And this comes on the same day as the current president has been accused of taking $5 million in bribes while vice president from Ukraine.
Dude, politics
Bad
is
day
fun
for
again.
America. That's all for tonight. Harris Faulkner's up next. Good luck, everybody.
Politics is fun again.
Let's
fucking go!
News alert. This is Fox News.
Let's fucking go! Woo!
Has just indicted former President Donald Trump over his handling of classified documents after he left office. The former president announced.
I can't begin to tell you how little I fucking cared about the goddamn debt ceiling, dude. Oh my God. Endlessly reading about the debt ceiling. Fucking hell, dude. I wanted to fucking kiss myself. Holy shit. Day in, day out. Ukraine, debt ceiling. Ukraine, debt ceiling. Let's fucking go. Indict the motherfucker, dude. Oh, so good. It's so much content. I love it. It makes me so excited. It like reinvigorates me. You know what I mean? It makes me feel like excited to cover the news again. And it's not just like, you know, it's not just like dumb shit.
I never thought it was possible that such a thing could happen to a former president of the United States. I am an innocent man, he added. This is indeed a dark day for the United States of America. Matthew Whitaker is the former acting attorney general under former President Trump. He joins me now with reaction. First of all, just your initial reaction to what the former president just said. This is a dark day for this nation.
Yeah, it's good to be with you. It's a really sad day for our country. I mean, if you believe in the rule of law and if you believe in equal justice under the law, this should concern you because, you know, we have what appears to be a completely political prosecution of the former president, the current leader for the Republican nomination. And, you know, it was a rush to get him indicted. You know, you look at the other cases, compare this to Hunter Biden's case, Joe Biden's case, Vice President Pence's, and even, you know, Hillary Clinton. And I can't see how the Department of Justice isn't explaining why they're doing this case and none of these other cases that I just mentioned. It's really a sad day, Harrison. And I think it's the stuff of banana republics, quite frankly.
You know what? I have to point out what the former president is saying about that garage with the papers strewn all over and the lack of classified document security at a current president's home. All of that is true. We have pictures of where the Corvette was parked. Yeah. We know that they found documents that weren't even told to the American public, weren't even told to anybody outside the Biden circle for months after they had been first found at the Penn Wharton University Penn with his name on it, that place at the campus, and then 2 of his homes, and then it was like an Easter egg hunt. I mean, every place you look, there were more documents. The president isn't wrong about complaining about that and saying that this is not fair.
Yeah, there was a major component in the Michael Pence and Joseph Robinette Biden situation, though. Are you guys ready for this? It's called compliance, okay? When the law enforcement officials come to you, they knock on your door and they say, hey, you got a bunch of stuff that we want from you, okay? We conducted an investigation and we want the stuff back because it doesn't belong to you. You say, oh, my bad. Here you go. Okay. Go ahead. Go to all of my houses. Go to everything. Take it. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to have it. Now, in other circumstances, that might not work for you. Okay. But you're not the former fucking president or the vice president. They can get away with it. Trump, just like Michael Pence and Joseph Robinette Biden, was given numerous opportunities to comply. Okay. Numerous opportunities. And yet, for some weird reason, and I cannot wait for the reasoning. Oh my God, I'm so excited to find out what the actual reason is. Just did not do that. He didn't do that from the jump. He kept it, and then he lied about keeping it, and then they had to go in and forcibly take it from him, and then he claimed that it was like the worst thing that could have ever happened. It was a SWAT team raid, and now there's still even more. There's more shit that we don't even know where it is, and it's like, we don't know why he's doing it. We don't know why he chose to do it back then. I don't even understand why he did it to begin with. Why didn't you just comply from the jump? It's fucking awesome.
Are you surprised, because the president says that he was first notified, you know, less than 36 hours ago. Are you surprised at the speed at which we found out about the indictment? I mean, how does this normally work? When you say that this is a dark day for America, give us some of the exceptions to the normalities that you see.
Well, first of all, the speed with which this investigation happened, you know, again, we have the Hunter Biden investigations, 4.5 years, nothing has happened. We have this recent alleged bribery case when Vice President Biden, then Vice President Biden, allegedly received $5 million, and that has been languishing for years. And so, you know, it just seems like when Republicans, or especially Donald Trump, you know, is under the wheel of investigation, that they do it with post haste and they throw all the resources on it. But when Democrats, and especially Biden family and others, you know, are alleged to have had wrongdoing, that these investigations go nowhere. And I just, you know, it's a two-tiered system of justice, Harris, and we've talked about this before, but this is just another example, and I think it's the worst example yet.
Yeah, it's a two-tier justice system in the sense that, like, people like Donald Trump don't get in trouble for shit that, like, his underlings absolutely would get in trouble for. One of the greatest examples of this is literally Michael Cohen going to jail, and, like, there's a point of contention there for whether or not Trump should even go to jail for the same thing that Michael Cohen went to jail for. Like, That's it. That's like a clear demonstration of a two-tier justice system, okay?
Well, unfortunately, a lot of this is going to be tried in the press. We're going to see leaks, continued leaks from the special counsel on what they believe their evidence is. And so, what he's facing is, a public trial ultimately. But I think, Donald Trump seems to always get stronger when challenged. These types of things that would normally melt an average human being, I think, give him strength, and he continues to fight. And, the question I have is why do we continue to have these persecutions? The Russia hoax is a prime example where they threw all the resources they possibly could and tried to prove anything they possibly could, and they never got a single charge out of that against Donald Trump. And I just see this as another example of that, where the Department of Justice is, for some reason, probably because Donald Trump isn't beholden to anybody and can actually, take this country in a better and improved direction, that's why they're going after him, because they want to stop him in this swamp, and the people that live in it are real, and they don't like Donald Trump.
Do you think that he has the legal team around him at this point that can handle all of this? Do you see him bolstering that at all? And would you want to be on it?
So I spent a lot of time with President Trump. I just saw him in Iowa last week. He's going to have to determine whether he has the right people in the right positions, and ultimately that's his decision.
Guys, a lot of people understandably are demanding, where is Joey Taco Penis? Okay? A lot of people are understandably saying, where is Tony Baloney? Okay? I get it. I hear you. I feel you. Unfortunately, that's a different court case. That's the Manhattan District Attorney case, which is unfortunately not this one. This is a totally separate one with a totally separate legal team. So I know we all want to see Matthew Calamari, Tony Baloney, Joey Taco Penis. These are very real human beings. Okay, one of them is fake, but try to guess which one is actually the fake one. You will not be able to figure it out, okay? But these are real heroes. These are real heroes, and they're fighting. They're fighting for the top of the hour ad break. They're fighting so you don't see it at the top of the hour. But fear not, the only way to, stop seeing those ads is by subscribing. For $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account, where you get one free Prime subscription a month. We are so back, baby. We are fucking back. I love how they already have every talking point ready for this. Of course, they've been gearing up for this moment for a while now, just like you should gear up for the top of the hour ad break by subscribing. You can also get gifted a sub if you're lucky. Here's a 3-minute ad break now. Whew. This literally just like, I feel alive again, dude.
Trump is asymmetrical. Trump was a president. He had that prerogative to declassify. Biden was a vice president. He didn't. Trump had only had those documents for less than 2 years. Joe Biden knew that he had them for 6 years and never told anybody.
MP Sharky, thank you for the 5 gifted.
Mar-a-Lago is more secure than Joe Biden's garage. Donald Trump doesn't have a son who is erratic and is trying to weaponize or capitalize the knowledge of his father about government and his future trajectory as a political candidate for the Biden consortium profit. So it's just outrageous, and I don't know what's going to happen, but I think it's going to be a baton relay, because we're going to see Alvin Bragg get the baton, and then we're going to see Letitia James get the baton, and then Miss Willis down in Georgia, and it's designed to destroy the person who's leading in the polls against Joe Biden. That's what countries abroad do that are unstable and corrupt. The existing administration uses the powers of government to indict his likely opponent or possible opponent in the next election.
Talk to me about the players in this. I mean, you mentioned a lot of names at the FBI and those previous investigations, but we don't know as much about the current, team looking at this. What we do know is that the documents, as you said, were there for 2 years, and that there was some sort of cooperation going on at the beginning of this between the former president and those people who were investigating.
Yeah, I think that's right. And what's happened in the Biden administration, they are using the power of a special counsel for political purposes. This is the second time they've done it. Remember that we got Robert Mueller because James Comey leaked a private conversation with the President of the United States, used a third party so that the media sensationalism would prompt a special counsel who just happened to be Robert Mueller, a former acquaintance. And then he ate up 22 months for nothing of the Trump administration. Now we're doing a replay with this special counsel. And this is even more egregious because, again, we have the President of the United States who did the same thing, but to a greater degree. And this special counsel or the other special counsel doesn't seem to be saying anything. And I'm really worried about the reputation of the government abroad, but half the country has lost faith in the integrity of the United States government, and that's very dangerous in a democracy. Very dangerous.
It may be more than that. I think that this is equal political opportunity in terms of how people perceive things. We started with Matthew Whitaker saying that if you care about justice, it involves every American. So it shouldn't matter how you vote when you look at this.
It shouldn't. And it's a long pattern, though. We saw 120 days of riot and destruction and arson, 14,000 people arrested in 2020, 35 people killed, 1,500 police officers. And
wait, that 1,500 police officers killed. Exactly. Way more people were fucking arrested for George Floyd protests in this country. Okay? No, 1,500 cops were not killed. He's lying. But way more motherfuckers were arrested during the Black Lives Matter riots or protests that turned into riots when police escalated, okay, with violent tactics, versus January 6th, which was actually also violent, significantly more violent for that one moment, okay, and way less arrests.
The only thing these people understand is like kind. If we get into that cycle, we're going to descend into a mobocracy.
Yeah, you're looking at history to inform the future of
these guys always talk about how, like, oh, nobody went to jail for Black Lives Matter protests. It's like, no, a lot of people did. Put on Lib News. Fox News isn't addressing the story. Yeah, but Lib News is boring, dude. It's fucking boring. You know what I mean? Boring. They don't even know how to smoke on the Trump PAC appropriately.
Talk about conspiracy here.
Yeah. So all that a conspiracy means legally is an agreement between two or more people to violate the law, a meeting of the minds. And so what
Axel
we know
Dick, get off your fucking phone, brother. What are you, a Twitch streamer?
Donald Trump acting alone.
Holy
there were others
shit.
in on it with him who knew that this was criminal. And I think it's fair to speculate that when we see this indictment, that Donald Trump will be cast as the head of the conspiracy. It's impossible to think of it.
So multiple actors in a conspiracy have to be aware that the activity is illegal.
Yes, because let's say, for example, Donald Trump told an unwitting person, move that box, and that person didn't know anything about that. That's not a conspiracy. That's a crime by Donald Trump, not the guy moving the box. If they both knew and had a meeting of the minds, this is illegal and we're doing it, that is a conspiracy. And I also want to underscore the fact that this...
Dude, if they're saying this in the investigation, I 100% believe that Trump had a conversation. Oh my God, I'm so excited. Oh my God. Trump is such a fucking dumbass, dude. Oh my God, 100p, dude. He 100% would have been like, yeah, this is very illegal, folks. Very illegal. You better hide it good.
In 2020, he's enormously unpopular there, would have had a very unfavorable jury pool. In Florida,
yes,
he's going to have a much more favorable jury pool politically. That can make a very big difference.
That's a point that a bunch of lawyers have made to me, close to him.
I want to go back to D.C. and Caitlin Collins. Caitlin?
Yeah, and Anderson, back with us now is our senior Justice Department correspondent, Evan Perez, with new information on security at the courthouse in Miami, Evan, which is where we expect that these charges happened. What do you know?
Well, that's right, Caitlin. We know that the Justice Department is scrambling to move resources, security resources, law enforcement resources ahead of the former president making his first appearance there in Miami on Tuesday. Just to sort of, back this up a little bit, the fact is that Jack Smith has run a very tight ship. Very little has come out from the special counsel's office, walled off even from other parts of the Justice Department. So it wasn't until after this indictment was handed up, it wasn't until after the former president was notified that the law enforcement folks were told, okay, now you have to get ready to deal with security situation, a potential security situation in Miami. And so now we know that, for example, the Secret Service, they need at least a couple of days to make sure they do an assessment and to make sure they are safe to bring the former president to that courthouse in Miami. So a number of resources are now being rushed in there over the weekend, again, in time ahead of this Tuesday court appearance by the former president. Caitlin?
And Evan, that's what sticks out to me, is that we should remind people Trump is the one who announced this news, similar to the way he announced when the search warrant was executed in Mar-a-Lago. Also, when he said he was going to be indicted in that hush money case in New York, he publicly broadcast much of this information, and now he is letting everyone know that this is happening, the specific time, the specific place. And so I imagine that has to do with a lot of the security as well, because of the
Send
whether
Biden
or not
to
his
jail.
supporters will
Send Biden to jail.
Absolutely, Caitlin. Look,
Send Biden to jail.
Everybody has learned from what happened on January 6th that the former president does have a hold on a particular set of his base, and nobody wants to make the mistake of not being ready for a situation, should it entail.
Okay, this is a serious question. How the fuck is XC able to play Lies of P? Because I want to fucking play it.
And you saw how unprepared
I want to explain that to
everybody was for January 6th, and the fact that the former president, he uses, you can see some of the language he's using on his
there's a demo?
social
I'll try the demo
some
later.
of the language he's using, as we speak, he's posting a video about this event. Those are the things that law enforcement folks worry about. Again, trying to make sure he gets in there safely. Make sure that it's safety for of course, the prosecutors and the judges in that courthouse down there in Miami. Look, for months, law enforcement was getting ready for a possible indictment in Washington. It's much easier to do here. There's a lot more resources here, and everybody knows exactly what to do. What was going to be more complicated was an indictment in Miami, and so that's one reason why you see everybody scrambling, even at this hour, trying to make sure that the proper resources are down there ahead of this Tuesday court hearing by the former president.
David Axelrod
we knew the Trump legal team was
died
bracing for this, but they seem to be caught off guard even by this timing as of today.
Absolutely.
Evan, I know you'll keep tracking this. I want to go to CNN's Kara Scannell. She's actually live outside that courthouse in Miami that Evan was referencing there. Kara, what does it look like right now? Did it seem quiet before the former president posted on Truth Social that he had, in fact, been told that he's been indicted here?
Yeah, Kayla, I mean, it is very quiet here. There's just only really a handful of media that were still in place when Trump made that posting. I mean, all day it was pretty quiet. We did see some of the key prosecutors who were on the special counsel's team working on the documents case, and we saw one of them going out to get lunch. We saw them going back into the cafeteria to get some snacks, some chips and cookies. And then we also had heard at the end of the day, after everyone had gone, that there were a bunch of pizza boxes back in the grand jury room. But we weren't sure if the grand jury had met or even that they had voted. But it has been a relatively tranquil scene here today. Of course, if you remember back in New York after Trump was indicted on the state charges by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, it was a similar thing. The indictment came down on a Thursday. He was arraigned the following Tuesday. That gave everyone time to get into place. So you can imagine this scene here will become quite busy, not only the media descending, but also potentially some Trump supporters, some members of the public. As Evan was just explaining, they will have to get a security parameter in place here. And, Trump being at Mar-a-Lago, as you well know, I mean, they are used to having him, transporting him around, but this is certainly of a different magnitude and dimension, the first time a former president facing federal charges. There was this run through in New York. We saw how that worked. What's unclear here is how they will handle it internally. Will they shut down the courthouse like they essentially did in New York, freezing the building, freezing the floors that the former president was going to be on, and then creating a pretty rigorous system of who would be able to get into the courtroom to witness this.
Mute your mic. It's not coming from me. It's coming from her.
Cameras in federal court, so the public won't get a glimpse of this, and it remains to be seen how they're going to figure out the logistics of having this arraignment take place here on Tuesday. Caitlin?
Yeah, remarkable to see a second indictment in just such a short period of time. Thank you, Kara.